right, good morning, everybody. My name is William Morrissey. I'll be presenting our final briefing, the Moonshot Initiative, a workforce housing development solution. First, I will take you through the Workforce Housing Challenge, our research methods and findings, our sustainability recommendations, and then a look towards the future. But first, what do I mean when I say workforce? I mean individuals who are making 60 to 120% area median income. These are middle income workers like firefighters or servers or teachers, those who don't qualify for affordable housing but are being placed out of market rate neighborhoods. Since 2001, median rent incomes have outpaced median prices have outpaced median rents have outpaced median household incomes. And yet government programs and housing initiatives, they usually target low-income populations. That leaves our middle-income families with little to no assistance. The integration of sustainability principles in housing is key to meeting this housing challenge and supporting our missing middle and their quality of life. But sustainability is not just about resource efficiency or reducing waste. It's about resilience against climate disaster. It's about providing healthier living environments for our communities. It reduces utility and transportation costs, and it promotes greener futures. Now, together with our clients, our mission is to create 1 million sustainable homes over the next 10 years. Those clients are Sean Davis, founder of Merton Capital Partners. He leverages his network and expertise to use philanthropy as equity to create sustainable workforce housing. And Duke McLarty, who's a housing policy expert and founding director of Groundwork, a workforce housing nonprofit in Northwest Arkansas. They have developed an innovative funding model that uses philanthropic commitments from foundations and high net worths to effectively deploy capital to large-scale products like our sustainable housing units. Now, where's all this capital going? Our primary targets are Nantucket, Massachusetts, Northwest Arkansas, and Palm Beach, Florida. These were chosen because of current philanthropic interest and the current housing needs, but they make perfect pilot projects for our Moonshot initiative because of the diverse set of social and environmental challenges they face. Challenges like heat waves, flooding, not in my backyardism or NIMBYism, or lack of public transportation. These are just a grouping of the challenges each of our locations face. But as you can see, they each have a unique set of issues and priorities. For example, Nantucket's coastal erosion, West Palm Beach's flood risk, or Northwest Arkansas's heavy storms represent the current environmental risks they face. Nantucket's NIMBYism, or access to public services in West Palm Beach, and the lack of transport in Northwest Arkansas represent the social challenges we need to overcome to build the affordable housing units these communities need to thrive. Now I'll take you through our methods. The Moonshot team broke into 3 research groups: market analysis, stakeholder engagement, and best practices. We reviewed and analyzed reports. We talked to experts and community leaders. We developed our core findings, and then we identified effective and replicable strategies for sustainable housing development. We found that there are trade-offs to consider when integrating sustainability into housing development. Green housing design principles are important to incorporate, but they represent a cost. So balancing these priorities while keeping rents affordable is key. Public funding through things like tax incentives like solar rebate programs or housing tax credits help keep costs low for investors and residents alike, but public funding is not enough by itself. And our research confirms that philanthropy has a critical role to play in this process. and should be leveraged more strategically and more often. And finally, our communities are who we are trying to serve. So engaging them on the ground level will help us overcome bureaucratic roadblocks and ensure long-term sustainability. By having a diverse funding approach with multi-stakeholder involvement, the Moonshot can realize its goal of improving workforce quality through sustainable housing solutions. So how do we integrate sustainability into housing development? We have developed 4 critical implementation pillars that support our quality of life theme. Conscientious construction involves strategies to help mitigate the impact of materials used for construction and the construction itself. Resource efficiency promotes smart usage of materials and energy, as well as integrating renewables where possible. Community cohesion encourages the engagement of the community and thoughtful integration into the current context. And climate resiliency promotes resilient design in the face of climate threats. These are some of the tools we've developed and identified under these themes. For example, one might use recycled materials in their construction to reduce waste. They might install solar panels on south-facing roofs. They might hold town hall meetings in order to ensure they're meeting the needs of the community, or use stormwater management techniques like green roofs and permeable surfaces to mitigate weather effects. We've also gathered some location-based specific recommendations to address the coastal erosion in Nantucket or flood risk and heavy storms. You could use strategies from our conscientious construction pillar or climate resilience pillar, like resilient design materials, green roofs, and raised energy systems. Or to address the public services problem or lack of public transport and NIMBYism, you'd use tools from our community pillar and from our resource efficiency pillar, like community meetings, strategic siting, and improved infrastructure. It's important to consider the location's unique challenges while thinking about how sustainable housing solutions can help. Now, we all know we can't manage what you can't measure, and so it's important that we have key metrics and KPIs to understand our impact. Metrics like number of community meetings and their attendance rates, or reduced blackout hours due to solar generator use, or money saved from incentive program participation. Now we'll take a look towards the future. We are here in the beginning of the Moonshot program, developing how to integrate sustainability into housing development. After the success of our pilot projects, we will garner more interest from foundations and high net worths. We will identify new locations, and we'll scale up the Moonshot to provide housing across the country. Now, the Moonshot initiative is new and ambitious. It'll take a lot of work to get to 1 million housing units, but like I said in the beginning, sustainability is not just about resource efficiency and energy saving. It's about being resilient against climate catastrophe, and it's about enhancing the community. Using philanthropy as a risk mitigating incentive or investment tool, communities will be more resilient against these climate threats. They'll have better access to public resources, and they'll have a brighter future ahead. I'd like to thank our team, especially our managers, and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you. Hi, Will.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
I was curious as to, across your 3 different locations, were there any more general themes on like the potential community opposition?
Yeah, so we have noticed, like I mentioned, that NIMBYism, and in places with large wealth gaps, like the ones we're targeting to address the workforce housing problem, you do find not in my backyard is quite prevalent. It compounds with things like zoning laws, which make it easier for bureaucratic roadblocks to occur, and while giving the community a stronger voice, also kind of prevents us from giving people housing, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could explain more about the funding, where, like you're saying, philanthropy, high net worth individuals. Who are you target? Who is the program going to target? How does that actually work?
Right. Thank you so much for asking. We actually have a slide for our funding model.
An
So there's a lot of
appendix
text
slide.
on there, but let's start at the top. The donors are who you're asking about. You can think about it like the people who have signed up for the Giving Pledge, those billionaires and millionaires who pledge to give 50% of their net worth during their lifetimes or in their wills. Those donors donate to a donor advised fund that's housed in a company called Impact Assets. But Merton Capital Partners are the ones who source and execute the housing development programs. They set up that housing nonprofit, which uses the equity from the donor advised fund and loans from the bank to build the housing projects. And the nonprofit uses the rents to pay the loans back and owns the property in perpetuity. That's how we keep the rents low.
I had a question on this. So I'm glad that I got asked, and then I guess relatedly, and this might not be like quite in the scope of the project. It might be something that like is afterwards. But as we think about like scaling this up, presumably it wouldn't just be 1 million home units in these 3 locations
Right.
that y'all have identified. And I'm curious if you had any conversation with the client or have any insight into like, are there any general characteristics of the places that would be good targets for this type of model?
Yeah, so one of the primary characteristics that makes this model work is philanthropy interest. So combining philanthropy interest with a real housing need in each location is key to making sure these programs work. Like if you don't have a real housing need, obviously you don't need the houses, but if you don't have philanthropy interest either, the funding is harder to get because we're relying on that for the equity in all of these projects, for sure.